we'll go.
Oh, there we go.
Well, who's going to replace Josh Jenkins?
Great question. Oh,
First question off. Look, fair to say Elliot Himmelberg's in the box seat for that spot. He's obviously done it in the past, so yeah, he'll come under really strong consideration.
Have you considered 2 rucks?
Well, he's thought about that. As I said, that we'll assess that at match committee this afternoon. But I think at the moment Elliot's had that role in the past and has performed really strongly. So he's sort of more of a natural fit.
What have you liked about him in recent weeks since he's gone back to the twos?
Yeah, we probably just felt his early form when he came into the side initially for Josh was really strong, and it just tapered off a little bit. He's been able to go back to Sample and keep rebuilding a little bit, and he's obviously learned a lot through his time at his games in the AFL. He came in as a one-game player, and he's now got 6 or 7 under his belt. So, if he gets the opportunity, he's I'm sure he'll apply that learning to perform strongly on Friday night.
And Wayne Miller, how did he get to training today?
Yeah, Wayne didn't do a lot today at training. He's had a bit of a sore back, which is restricting him a bit. So he's probably unlikely at this stage. He'd have to do a fair bit of work to come up for this week.
Obviously a blow, but with backs you don't want to be too risky, I suppose.
No, and a young player too. We're sort of mindful of making sure that settles down. It's we're hopeful it's only going to be a short period. So, but as I said, at this stage he's probably unlikely.
Was it a knock, or how did he do it?
Yeah, it was a knock from a couple of weeks ago.
I guessed it.
Who replaces him?
That's a good question. We've got to work that out. Yeah, that's part of match committee this afternoon. Yeah.
Bryce gives a good shout for that.
Well, Bryce played some good, strong footy before the break. His last game was out at Centrals, and he's performed really strongly. So again, his name will come up for consideration.
I think he was saying he's feeling like he's on the precipice of getting back into the
yeah,
team.
He's been working really hard on his game, both at training and obviously when he played at Sanford level. So as I said, his attitude's been first class. We saw some really positive signs from him in his last game. We just have to make a decision as to where he comes in, if he comes in, and what role he plays for us.
What else might you be weighing up there, Don? Chase Jones as well?
Yeah, there's a few guys. I mean, that's the beauty we've got. We've got a pretty full list of fit guys to select from. It's probably going to come down to a bit of roles, balance, what we sort of need, and obviously a bit of assessing Geelong and how they play, and what do we think is going to work for us come Friday night.
Just a 2 change then? 2 forced changes? Or?
Well, that's at this stage. Again, we'll go through match committee this afternoon, and we've obviously got through training, and we'll assess that as we go.
No one else was ahead of training? Everyone else got through okay?
There's a couple of guys. Well, there's a couple of guys who are a little sore, so we've got to assess them. We're going to do that this afternoon, tomorrow morning, and finalise the team tomorrow.
Would you mind revealing who
No, I won't reveal who that might be. No,
Brilliant,
that's fine.
thanks.
Okay, thanks.
What did you learn from the way Port tackled Geelong on the
Yeah, well, I went to the game and had a look at the game. I think it's fair to say Port clearly were really strong in the contest phase. They won the contested ball numbers, which has been noted by both teams, if you like, post the game. And they were able to put good pressure on Geelong. And we know the comps. That's how it works. That's a fundamental of how you want to play. It's a fundamental of how we want to play, and they'll be no different on Friday night.
The bye covered a good time, and did you get some time off yourself?
Yeah, look, it was, we obviously got to round 13, the bye kicked in, which was nice. I think we sort of got there off a 5-day break against Richmond, so for us it came at a good time. Guys were able to get away. I got away for 2 or 3 days, and which was nice just to sort of just be for a few days, but it comes back pretty quickly. So we got back in on Thursday and session Thursday, Saturday into training today. So guys are refreshed, ready to go, and again the challenges keep coming. So we get into the bye in a reasonable position after a poor start, and now we get Geelong at Geelong. The best team in the comp is a great opportunity, and I keep saying it, but every week seems to be our biggest game for the year, and this is no exception.
And probably a good time for Kelly and Talia, who looked really sore after that game.
Yeah, well, they had some knocks after that game, and obviously couldn't complete the game, so the extra breaks allowed them to come up, and they're fine.
How'd Lockie's dentist go?
Yeah, he's all good. He's got a couple more mouth guards now, so he's got one for home and one for away. So he's all fine. Obviously, unfortunate for him and unfortunate for the team really, because he went off 5 minutes into the first quarter. So we played pretty much all that game with only 3 on the bench. So, but he's all settled fine and he's ready to go.
Was Lynchy close? He looked like he was moving okay.
Yeah, he's moving okay. He's probably just got one last step to tick off, and it was probably felt like just a reach too far this week. So we're really hopeful for him for next week. But he's obviously got now, Wednesday, he'll have a couple more sessions this week over the weekend, and hopefully get into full training next week and be ready for next week.
It was a difficult start to the year for you. You're 1-3, but you've won 7 of 9 since. What's been the biggest turnaround? Is it, what in your eyes? What's sort of seen that happen?
Well, if you look at our numbers early from a contest viewpoint were really poor, and we were getting beaten in the contested ball, and those numbers have turned around. I think in the last 9 weeks we've been in the top 2 or 3 for for the contest. That's been a clear focus for us, and that's allowed us to not only win our share but also get some field position against opposition. And that's going to be important come Friday night. We play another really strongly, position contested side in Geelong who are really efficient going forward. So, probably our contest stuff, and I think we've been able to defend the game better than we were earlier in the season. So those are the two things that have probably pleased us most at the halfway, and the rest of it was still got work in progress, if you like.
Jenkins has been very dynamic since he's come back.
Yep.
He's almost sort of re-energised your forward line. What do you have to shuffle around to make sure that you can sort of take a bit of space, create a bit of space for Tex and kick a winning score without him there?
Yeah, well, as you say, Josh, when he come back in the team, has been very good. I mean, very strong. His movement was back to the level we know he's capable of. He was flying at balls and he was impacting the game, both in his presence up forward but also on the scoreboard. So, he's a big loss for us. But it was probably more the fact that he was moving so early. It'll be, if he comes in, he'll be the one that we're looking at to fill that role. And as I said, he did a really good job for us early when he came in. So expectation is just to come in and play that role.
Is it as simple as that?
Well, it's never as simple as that because you've got two different players. The reality is you've got one guy who's played a lot of footy and has played some really high quality footy at the level, and as you saw even last week was influential in the game against Richmond. You've got a younger guy coming in, but it comes down to his work rate and his effort.
What were the things that Port showed you on Saturday night? Did they sort of expose a few things about Geelong, or do you sort of think that was a one-off with Geelong? Obviously they're 11 and 2. They're obviously a very good side.
Yeah, they're a very good side, and I went along to the game and watched, and you see, and probably watching Geelong more to see how they're playing and their style, and then obviously what Port were able to do on that game to slow that down. But it is one game, and we tend not to read too much into one game. It was obviously a fantastic win for Port, but for Geelong, I'm sure they're looking at it going, well, they wouldn't want to be minus 30 plus in the contest every week, otherwise it's going to be hard to win games of footy. So we can expect that's going to be the case come Friday night. It's going to be hot early, it's going to be a contested game, and that's the space that we like to play in, so we look forward to that challenge.
Are you going to provide some extra motivation to bounce back from that?
Well, I'd be disappointed if Geelong had more motivation than we do to get a result on Friday night. I mean, we're aspirational about, we want to be part of this, and to be part of it, you've got to win, and you've got to win away from home, and we get an opportunity Friday night.
How do you do that? How do you sort of drive that motivation and make sure that when the first ball is bounced, there's no lag time until you click into gear? No,
that's with myself and the playing group. I mean, we recognise we're going across to play a very good side at home, and we understand the level of effort we need to bring. That's not going to. That doesn't need any more reinforcement from me than exactly those words. Is that they understand what level we need to bring, and Geelong will bring what they bring. We can't control that. All we can control is how we prepare and how we go in and how we understand what's going to create winning for us on Friday night, and then it's up to whether we can execute it. And that's always the case in any game. You can go with whatever plan you want, but you've got to be able to execute it. So that'll be the same on Friday night.
What about Cardinia Park? And it's been called a hoodoo now,
Yep.
the Crows have done there. How are you dealing with that?
Yeah, well, there's no real. It's interesting, the concept of a hoodoo, because I think there's probably a third of our team have probably never played there. So, and it's completely different. They're all. It's sort of strange the way it works. I know last week they were talking to Geelong about post buys and bits and pieces, and the reality is these things exist for reasons. But I look at it and go, it's a completely new event. Completely different team. The ground is slightly different, but not majorly different to where we play. It's now just about making sure our mentality is we're not worried about those things. We control, which will be our effort on Friday night.
Jake Kelly was speaking about how you lined up on Saturday and on a skinnier.
Yep.
What challenges does the actual venue present?
Well, we probably did that more so just to get the players a bit familiar with the shape, if you like, and it is quite narrow, just to get them to feel for, especially when you've got the ball or when you're defending, you can actually understand where the limits are on the ground. So we did that as more of a preparation thing than anything else. It wasn't something we overly highlighted. It's just give them a feel for it.
So does it change the way you set up, or does it change?
No, it probably just gives the players the awareness of the space that is out there or not out there in certain times. So, and again, they adapt around that.
I'm just getting off the game for a second. Obviously, you asked on radio yesterday about Brodie Grundy and I suppose whether the club would sort of pursue him at the end of the season. Now, with the way that Riley O'Brien has played this year, does that sort of lessen the effect, or I suppose how hard you might go after Brodie, given Riley's great form that he showed in the last 12?
Yeah, well, Riley's been super impressive, which has been wonderful. I mean, it's a great return, a reward for him for the effort he's put in, and it's fantastic. It's always great when you see a young player come in, apply their craft and learn, and he's been learning a bit on the job, and he's had some really big tests in the first 10 weeks of his sort of career. So it's been fantastic to see him develop. Obviously we've got Sauce, who's playing some good footy at Samford level at the moment, and at the moment it's being held out by Riley, who's doing a great job, and we're in a great position. We've got 2 guys vying for the one spot. In terms of what happens in the future, obviously list management looks after all that, and I'm not going to engage in the conversations about who might be available. It's that time of the year where we'll start talking about every player who might be available, might be out. As I said, my view's always been pretty simplistic. Is if someone's interested and they're a good player, every club's going to be interested in them. That's just reality. But I think there's a time and a place to communicate regarding players, and this is probably neither the time nor the place.
But if you've got a good young ruckman in Riley O'Brien.
And we're very keen to going with Riley. We want to recontract him, and that's part of the process we're going through at the moment.
Well, so you are sort of started talks with Riley about
yeah, very much so.
Is he young?
Would you have had, sorry, John?
That's right.
Would you have had that confidence in Riley? Like if someone said to you in round sort of 14 that the emergence of Riley would happen and the need for another ruckman would be lessened, would you have believed that?
Well, it's hard because you're sort of talking about hypotheticals in some respect. I mean, I think what we're pleased with is the emergence of Riley, and that's a credit to his development and the work that a lot of our coaches have done with Riley and the work he's put in. So, we obviously have guys on our list on the basis of they're all at different phases. Some guys are starting and they're learning their craft and learning about how to become an AFL player. Other guys are experienced and they've been doing it for years. So to see someone like Riley emerge is fantastic. And obviously from a list management viewpoint, that's what you want. You want everyone getting better year in, year out. And he's taken a really big step forward this year, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, in a similar theme, has he maybe surpassed your expectations of what you thought maybe his output would be this season?
Well, we don't tend to put caps on guys. That's the thing. And you don't know. That's the beauty of our job. In terms of what we get to do is we get to give guys an opportunity to play, and you don't really know what they're capable of until they're given that chance. And in Riley's case, he got an opportunity on the basis of Source going down, but it wasn't a 2-week opportunity. It was probably an 8-week opportunity, and that's allowed him to come in and actually. And I use the word lightly, get comfortable, but understand he's going to be playing and to actually learn, if you like, on the job. And apply the things that he's really good at, and obviously through that he's had some strong performances, and that builds his confidence, which I think we've seen that in the last couple of weeks. He's going out there knowing I am an AFL ruckman. I'm good enough at this level. So I think everyone who comes into the game first starts by thinking, I've been picked, I'm going to play, am I good enough? There's always going to be that element of uncertainty, and I think all Rob's done over the 10 weeks is giving himself the belief that he's good enough to compete against the rucks in the AFL and hopefully have a long career.
Does the talks with Rod, do they sort of get put off a little bit though? Like if you guys are going after, if you do have a talk with Bob Brodie at the end of the season, obviously the best ruckman in the competition, does that affect Riley and when you actually start those conversations? Because maybe he doesn't want to be at a club where he's going to be the second ruckman behind Brady Grundy.
No.
No, it's sort of two separate conversations.
Well, we've got a player at the moment. So let's deal with the known knowns.
Yeah.
Is we have a player at the moment who's performing strongly.
Yeah. That
we've got 4 or 5 years of development that we want to keep at the footy club.
Yeah.
So that's the conversation at the moment.
Yeah.
Everything else is just, I don't know, out there in the ether. May happen, may not. We've got a guy right now that's doing a really good job for us that we want to re-sign.
We had a fascinating press conference with Jake Kelly on Monday. I don't
Oh,
know
yeah.
whether you watched it or saw it.
No, I haven't
at
seen
all.
it, no.
But he talked about how life outside of football is really important for him. He no longer watches games, just recreationally. He said he really sat down with you at the end of last season talking about finding life outside of football.
Yep.
As a coach, how do you handle the modern day player, the demands of their
Well, I think the thing we try and do with the players is almost a holistic development for them. And we understand they're all unique individuals. They all love playing footy, and this is in essence what they do, and this is in a lot of cases the primary focus they've got in their life. But we also understand life's bigger than just playing footy. And in all these guys' case, and it probably ties in a bit with the mental health discussion, is making sure our players can come here, do what they need to do, but they don't live it 24/7 because it is all encompassing, and it can be, especially for some younger guys, if they're just burning the whole time on footy, it can become quite overwhelming. So important for the players to find other things that can engage them. So whether that be doing some work, in Jake's case, I know he likes to go out and do some work, and he's interested in some business side of things, and he's meeting with people, which is fantastic. Or it's just as simple as going fishing, going playing golf, going surfing. spending some time with mates or whatever it is. It's important that they get a break away from the game. And the game has high demands for all of us, and they recognise that how we best manage ourselves and we best manage our players, that's ongoing, and the importance of relationships with players, understanding what makes them tick and what worries them or what keeps them up at night is all part of the job.
Do you think the demands of football are greater now than they were perhaps 10 years ago?
I think the changes that 10 years ago you probably had, it was professional, but it wasn't probably the same level it is now. That's interesting because when I was playing, for instance, I played as an outlet. It was an opportunity for me to finish work and go and play footy. Now this is what they do for a job, and I think there's a challenge there in just making sure the balance is right for them to have a life outside of footy, knowing that the demands of footy are high, and the pressure in footy is high, and the expectation at times can be high as well. So that balance becomes really important, and we're seeing that with most of our players, is their ability to have a balanced life outside of footy. As much as we need them to put their time and energy and effort into their footy, they also need to balance out what they do.
What did Djakovic and Matera do to balance their life back in the day?
Well, they were working. We all worked. We all worked when we played, so it was different. We'd just sort of knock off work at 4 o'clock, get in the car and go, "Hey, good's this? I'm going to footy training," and that's just the difference that now exists. Is they get up in the morning at 8:30 and they go to footy training. So trying to make sure that this environment is enjoyable enough for them to get in the car, looking forward to going to footy training. Where footy should be something that's enjoyable. It's challenging, yes, and at times it can be frustrating. At times you can have the highs and the lows, but the reality is we want to have an environment where they feel engaged. They can come in here and be themselves and enjoy what they do. Because as I've always said, I think you get most chance of having success when people enjoy what they do.